Welcome to Tennis Gala 2019 here on the Rauta channel. We're gonna talk a lot about tennis, left hand, right hand. Oh no, forget about it. I don't know jack shit about tennis. We're here to talk about thrash metal. We have a legendary person. Let's start with your name. I know everybody calls you SCHMIER, but that's not exactly the real name.
Yeah, SCHMIER is my real name since 36 years.
But
actually 38 years was the first time people started calling SCHMIER, but it became my nickname, it became my stage name, it became reality, When you name SCHMIER for all your life, nobody calls you with your shit name that is written in the passport,
All right.
It's maybe for the officer that checks you at the fucking border somewhere, But everybody calls me SCHMIER. I think the only person who's allowed to call me with my given name is my mother, because she gave me that shit that I never used, basically,
Yeah.
But yeah, SCHMIER is cool. Nowadays, people try to, dig up my old name, and it's not used. So
it's anywhere in metal archives.
It's a metal archives, but nobody ever wrote this name on any Destruction album, or I used it on any social media or nowhere. So it's bullshit. Why do you want to call me a name that I didn't accept,
Exactly.
So it's kind of funny that at the beginning everybody was like, SCHMIER, what the fucking name is that, And people were not accepting my name at the beginning, but everybody called me like that after a while. And now that I'm old, people try to give me my name again, like my given name, which is kind of stupid because I'm not using it, So
exactly.
So if people come and try to be personal with me, talking to me with my real name,
it's not gonna work.
I'm gonna ignore them because it's not working,
Exactly.
So but we talk about tennis, what is the most famous tennis player from Finland?
I have absolutely no idea.
Same with me. I don't know. I was like, there's a lot of ice hockey players, but maybe not ski jumpers, but not.
We're not that big in tennis. We are kind of a crappy in that. Probably someone's gonna sue me about saying this, but let's live with that. So you're now more than 50 years old, like you said. You are old person, not that old, but you're not the same person in the sense of being the teenager who was there when Destruction kind of started.
Yeah.
So how have years changed how you go on tours, you play gigs, you rehearse for new songs? How has life of Destruction changed?
When you're a touring band, you need to organize yourself, and that's what we learned pretty early, that if you don't organize yourself, you will lose shit, you will lose time, you will lose your wallet, you will lose your bag. I lost all this before, so we start to organize ourselves better when we grow older. And of course, we've been a band that also partied a lot, also those are the major changes when you get older, that you try to organize everything better so you don't lose your fucking shit. And you cannot party as hard anymore as you party when you were 17, but we still enjoy all this and we still have a great time, so not so much has changed, We also don't take life too seriously, because I think in rock and roll you gotta laugh about a lot of situations, because otherwise you can't take it, It's like when we came here, we had the big strike of Lufthansa, We had to find ourselves through how we're gonna make it through the show. Back in the day, I would have not cared about the strike before. I would have been going to the airport trying to fly, being stuck in Frankfurt, not being here. Now I'm an old man, I see things coming, I use my experience, I book new flights, and I'm here. That's the difference between a young musician that is just like, wants to go out there and kick ass, or the older guy that still kicks ass, but he wants to make sure shit works.
Yeah, and do it kind of a more relaxed way.
Yeah, it's we're here to have fun. We're doing all this because we have a great time, and as a thrash metal musician, you can't get rich. You get rich on experience. We have a great time on tour, and that's what we do. We enjoy ourselves. I love traveling. I'm going this weekend to Helsinki and to North Germany for a festival. Other people go to the disco.
Exactly. but how do you think these years have changed? Because thrash metal was bigger in the 80s, then it kind of had its downfall, crawled back to the surface. But younger genres, if you can call them that, like black metal and stuff, like went past, and now we are like trying to get...
The legacy remains, you know?
Exactly,
Yeah.
and you were inspiring a lot of older bands, but what about newer metalheads? How easy is them to find, you know, thrash metal? Like, you've been there for almost 40 years now.
I think, you know, if you look at the history of metal, the roots will always be important, and so of course thrash metal for a while was kind of, especially in the 90s, was difficult because a lot of bands split up. A lot of bands that had a good first wave kind of started different directions, you know. I think it's a normal situation that happens to all genres, you know, even to the heavy metal genre. But yeah, with the 2000s, thrash metal inspired a lot of young bands again. So we have a young, fresh scene again, a lot of young fans also. I think, you know, thrash metal seems an old music style in metal, but if you look at the fans, we have a lot of young fans, you know. Thrash metal is like a wild, rebellious kind of music. And it's not, you know, it's nothing to fuck around. It's violent, it's brutal, and I think that's why there's a lot of young fans still like this kind of stuff. And I think that keeps the music fresh. You know, that's something. If you have a young audience, that's the best thing you can have as a band. You know, we have a lot of the old farts like us, of course, coming to the shows that grew up on Destruction, and then there's a whole new generation of bands and fans that goes back into history of metal and wants to see Destruction live, you know. So I think that's a great thing for us, of course.
One thing that has bothered me a long time, I mean, I'm a fan of thrash metal, death metal, and black metal, especially all these three different kinds, but what I've noticed throughout the years is that while black metal can be quite attractive to female as well,
that's true.
but
That's
death
true.
metal and thrash metal, or they are almost like allergic.
You know,
what is going on with the thrash metal then?
It's the gothic effect that attracts to female, you know. It's this gothic look and everything, and I'm sure if you would, you know, look deeper into the music, I don't know if the girls care. You know, also a lot of the melodic black metal has keyboards, you know.
Exactly.
And keyboards is something that women also like.
Yeah, it was a heartwarming feeling.
And the thrash metal is fucking kick ass, you know. It's kind of, it's not very, it's not a woman kind of music, you know.
It's not nice music at all.
It's not a nice music. It's not commercial music. And it's. If you see thrash metal shows where there's a lot of women, it's basically, it happens in Latin America and in Japan. And the rest of the world, when you see women at the thrash metal show, it's the guys' girlfriends, you know, that come along, you know. So yeah, thrash metal is nothing that attracts a lot of females because it has nothing warming, heartwarming and nicely. It's brutal reality and...
it's violent.
It's violent, yeah. It's like maybe like a fight, you know.
Like a fight. That's a good way to say it. Now I must ask some annoying question. I know this is a kind of a weird one, but German thrash metal, you had it all back in the early 80s. And with Sodom and Creator especially, you became this kind of unholy trio. You were spearheading the whole genre from the European point of view. No other bands could be even close to the kind of a power and violence.
We were the earliest one also, you know.
Yeah.
You see it even just 1-2 years ahead back in the day means basically much more because we were so much earlier than the rest. So all the focus was on those bands at the beginning. There was a great wave of second bands coming, but of course it didn't get the same attraction anymore as the first ones because we kind of started we kicked in the whole thing, you know.
Now back to the annoying part is, American bands, which also had this kind of a big following.
Americans have Hollywood, you know.
Yeah, but
America sells everything better, you know.
So do you think it's because
look,
of this
look at the president. He's a fucking idiot, but he sells himself as a comedian. So he's famous, you know.
So do you think it's because it's the Hollywood effect that American thrash metal bands, especially Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, and Megadeth became big, and they still
also,
are
you have to understand, Americans are sellers, you know. They know how to sell themselves, you know. If it comes to image, if it comes to catchy songs. I mean, look at Metallica. They started to write catchy songs, and then they became famous. You know, I mean.
But they always also became crappier with their
albums. But I mean, they still fill stadiums. So I guess you know.
They still have it.
And Slayer kind of course, they had their cult status at one point, and then they were up on this Olymp that is kind of untouchable, basically. You know. I mean, I think the American bands, they also been. If you look at the age, they're all a little older than us, you know. We were the little kids. We were the little kids when the American bands were like 2 years older than us, 3 years older. So they were all technically also the better players at that time because we were just 17 and they were already 21. So I think that's one of the reasons why the American metal was the more famous one for the time, because it was the big wave came from America, the big labels were from America, the productions were flawless at the time. The first Metallica albums still sound great, you know, even if the guy was a Danish guy who produced them. But,
Exactly.
But they did a lot of things right, and I think that made the American bands, of course, you know, a little bit ahead of the time, ahead of the schedule, and that's why they're so legendary nowadays.
Do you think that also how much the kind of a lineup stood kind of intact? I mean, you have had quite a few lineup changes through the years. You were away from the band for 10 years, and your drummers have been changed every few years also. Do you think these lineup changes also affected this kind of a success?
I mean, you know, the lineup changes are never a good thing, you know. So one of the most stable bands is for sure Creator in Germany, and they're also the most successful one. So the lineup thing is for sure a thing, you know. The band is an identification for the fans, and if you have different members all the time, you know,
it gets confusing.
It gets confusing. So of course a lineup change is never a good thing, you know, and that's why I'm sure that's also a point, you know, and you also have to see that the big labels and MTV and all that stuff in the 80s was all coming from America. So it was always pushing America first. You know, Trump didn't invention America first. It was always an American thing. The Americans always been very good in selling their stuff. You know, selling Hollywood and selling the dream. So that's why this American wave of thrash metal was super successful. And of course, I mean, look at the songs. The first Slayer and Metallica albums, also Megadeth, are just fantastic records. You know, they've been writing some of the most significant thrash anthems at that time, and this will be timeless, of course.
What about your music then? How different it is to write these songs? Now we're closing almost to 20. How different it is compared to like 90s or 80s? How easy to keep relevant?
You know, I was an angry young man, now I'm an angry old man, you know, not much has changed in that kind of thing. So
anger is the kind of a driving force?
Yeah, I mean, look at Metallica as an example, and I don't want to piss off any Metallica fans, but look at the fact that once you're a billionaire, what should you be pissed off about?
Yeah, you cannot really complain.
That your butler burned your egg, maybe. You know?
Yeah.
So I think it's, you know, to not lose the street credibility, you can be like super rich. And in general in heavy metal, I think there's a few exceptions, but if bands get too big, too famous, it usually waters out the sound. You know, so heavy metal has to do something with anger, and thrash metal especially. You know, I think when you keep yourself angry, you can write the kind of music. You know, and when you go shopping with Gucci bags all the time, I don't think the anger is still.
So it's kind of hard to be this angry thrash metal guy when you're driving a Lamborghini or Ferrari.
Yeah, you know, it's when you have everything reached in life.
So if I would punch you in the face a couple of times, you would make a break reef, that asshole bald guy.
I would definitely, me, you know.
I'm just joking, but you know.
But you know, it's you have to be pissed off, I think, to write this kind of music. And I think when you're sitting in your nice mansion and have a Ferrari and have reached everything in life, it must be difficult to write an angry thrash metal song, because your life is a happy fairy tale, you know.
What about the paradox on stage? I mean, you obviously have to enjoy the tours, the audience, people when you were stage. So how can you be this like, yeah, this is great, and also, oh, I got to be angry? How do you deal with paradox?
I think I see my stage, at least my stage presence, as kind of a sport event. You know, I go out there, the adrenaline kicks in, and then you give 100% or 110% those 60 minutes or whatever, how long you play. And the challenge is, you know, to give all you got in those 60 minutes. And that's it for me. I see it as a cardio, as a sport event, as a challenge. You compete with other bands, you know. You want to be good tonight. You give all you can. And that's for me at least the stage moment, you know. That's how I see. That's when I see bands on stage being like comfortable and don't freak out and don't go crazy. I'm like, what's the sense of going on stage like this, you know?
Yeah.
That's why I like to go out there and kill, you know. And
so it's like a fight situation.
It's like a fight situation, and that's what I love about the stage. You know, you go out there, all the adrenaline kicks in. It's, you know, you can lose your leg, you can lose your arm, you still go. You know, like I had moments that I sliced my arm, everything was full of blood. I injured my leg before and stuff. I couldn't walk anymore after the show, but during the show everything worked, you know, because it's the adrenaline that kicks in, it keeps you going, and that's of course the big excitement about a live show.
I think Suffocation vocalist said this in Wacken Festival some, I don't know, 2008 or something, when I was watching the show. He said something like, start moshing and create this pit of moshing people or whatever, kill if you have to. I remember the line because it was so brutal. It kind of fit that, everybody was headbanging and stuff like that. And he was basically sharing that idea, what you just said, that keep this adrenaline going, keep the violence going, not instead of like, hey, everybody lit up your lighter and let's just be a heavy metal family.
Yeah, I mean, basically, metal fans are maybe out of all the scenes the most friendliest people, besides when the show starts,
Exactly.
Then they go into the pit, but also, I mean, there's some exceptions in the hardcore and metalcore scene where the pits are too violent for my taste.
Yeah.
But if you go to the circle pits in any country of the world, when people fall down,
they pick it up.
People usually pick you up again, and it's really it's a friendly atmosphere between friends at metal shows, and that's what metal fans understand. That's what scares a lot of people outside of the metal scene.
Yeah, look dangerous. You got, big guys having tattoos and spiky.
But the scene itself is about enjoying yourself. It's about having fun, and that's the crazy thing about metal.
How do you feel about singing the lyrics, which were there already back in the 80s, compared to nowadays? I mean, do you have to kind of adjust yourself in a different mindset? Like figuring that, okay, we were 17 when these lyrics were written.
Yeah, of course. We just did a best of album some years ago when we had to record all the old songs, and also some songs that I didn't sing for many years. I didn't even have the lyrics anymore, so I had to kind of rewrite the lyrics and hear the songs again. And yeah, it was when I finally sang those songs again, I was quite amused about how many times I said the word Satan at that time, But when you're 17 and you're an angry kid, you want to write most violent lyrics, and at that time the English wasn't the best. So writing those satanic horror lyrics was the easiest way for us to break out of society, to be different also. Nowadays, of course, when you're older, Satan is still real, but Satan for me became something different in this world. Like Creator said, Satan is real. Humanity is the most evil thing on the planet. And so when I write lyrics now, I write more with the subject of matter, of what's going on, social matter, stuff that happens. And when we started, of course, we were writing more like the fantasy lyrics. Because now I know Satan was created by the church, When I was young, I didn't read so much about that. I was just writing violent lyrics. When you grow older, of course, your mindset changes. You want to write about stuff that really makes sense to you.
Back in the days, for example, your early EP, you had these really kind of a badass poster. You had inverted crosses. But you don't exactly look like that anymore. I mean, basically you have the same feeling, but it's different. How would you react when you see those old photos?
The old photos they're still cult, When I look back at the time, my grandfather died back in the day when we did our first album, and I was going to the funeral with and my father said, if you come in the bullet belts, I will kick you out of the family. And I was 17, I was like, It
was a tough call.
It was a tough call, yeah. So I took out some of those belts, but I still went there with my leather and my studs and everything. And at that time, it was our way to be revolutionary against society. Of course, now this all became normal nowadays. Tattoos became normal. All trendy DJs have tattoos nowadays. So of course, time is changing. And mankind is adapting. Rock and roll back in the day was something wild, something crazy.
So it was something more dangerous.
Yeah, now rock and roll became fashion everywhere. All the fashion brands are using rock and roll clothes now in the designer shops and shit.
Even Hennes and Mauritz had their fake band shirts and jackets a couple of years ago.
Yes, the metal logos and shit.
Yeah, and there was actually a parody band in Finland made by some no names, and they went on Tuska stage and played these songs that were kind of made up after just those logos. It became a big joke. So that kind of proves your point. It became a fashion statement, and at Hennes and Mauritz they were like, what the you know?
Yeah, but also, you know, stuff is turning in circles, you know. metal never been a trend, and also lifestyle never been a trend, and I still love those old pictures when I see them. We still also on our Instagram we always post like once a week or so. We post an old picture from back in the day because people still love those old pictures. And for me, it was the beginning of it all, you know. And of course, I'm not walking around like the same way again anymore because you know you grew up as a human. Your style maybe changes a bit. I still wear leather. I still wear my bullet belts sometimes, you know, but not like as hardcore anymore as when I was a 17-year-old teenager.
We're gonna have to quit soon because the tennis gala will actually take place here. But a couple of last questions. How big part social media is for Destruction these days? I mean, is it the way to keep contact with your fans, or is it just mandatory evil?
No, it's something I had to learn like 10 years ago or 12 years ago when Facebook started. I was not very thrilled because we had a good website running, we had a good forum on the website, everything worked fine. But I understood quite fast already 10, 20 years ago when the internet kind of became big that you have to adapt.
To be relevant.
Yeah, you have to be there because the internet is fast and it will change everything. And now Instagram is the new Facebook, you know, and in 5 years you might have something else, you know. Streaming now is the new thing for music.
For example, this channel is a good example of that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you got to arrange with that. That's how stuff changes. For musicians, a lot of stuff has changed because you know, the physical sales are going down, like especially in America. All the music stores are closing down. There's no more record shops and stuff, you know, CDs.
It's a kind of a sad story.
It's kind of a sad story. So we as a band, we have to adapt and accept what's going on. And I think for me, the streaming has a lot of pluses, you know. One big plus is my album comes out today.
Everybody gets to listen to it.
Everybody, the guy in Guatemala, the guy in Russia, everybody can listen to the album. Back in the day, the album came out and fans were writing like, oh, I can't buy your album nowhere.
Yeah, it's not available.
It's not available because my record label couldn't get the stuff to Africa or to India, you know. Now all the fans worldwide can listen to the music, which is a great thing, you know. For me, that is fantastic. Of course, the payment for the musicians is still a big problem. It's like what most people know, like per streaming of a song, when the label is involved, most bands only get 0.002 cent.
Exactly.
And that's of course a little ridiculous. You know, that should be at least one less zero, and it will be acceptable. Like this, it's not enough money for a musician to survive. You know, so we will see how this goes in the future. But for us, Destruction, we're a band that has accepted all this. We're using the internet as a good thing, you know, and keep in touch with the fans, you know. We also did one album as a test once, the Thrash Anthems Best Of album with re-recorded songs over a pledge campaign, over a site, you know, that you could interact with the fans, you know. They could basically chip in some money and then you would get a final product at the end, and we could finance the production without a label this way. You know, this will all change in the next years. You know, maybe one day there will be no more record companies.
That's quite possible.
Yeah, because the bands will do everything themselves on the social media pages. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? You know, that's the way it goes. You have to accept it. I think if you say, oh, no, I'm not touching that stuff, then people will forget you. You know, you have a lot of young fans, and they want to go on Instagram and see the news, and that's the way it is.
Last question: where we will see Destruction in 10 years?
I hope 10 years we're still around, you know. I mean, musician is not like a job that you can just quit once you're old, you know. I think it's more like a dedication thing that you have. It's something that you hopefully can do until you die, you know. I see myself in the way that Lemmy did it, you know, play as long as you can. Hopefully people will still enjoy metal in 10, 15 years and still like thrash, and as long as we still do good albums and still can play live, we want to do that, of course.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
And so we still have to find out what's this Finnish tennis player that...
Yeah, we will be looking forward to you, dear audience, the community. You can fetch us the news who is the biggest tennis player in Finland.
I know the German one though, but not the Finnish one.
You can mention it right here.
Yeah, I mean the most famous German one was Boris Becker. You know,
Boris Becker, everybody knows. Even I know that.
Yeah.
All right, but stay tuned for more trashy news. Go see Destruction while you can. And if you are unable to find and enjoy this great music genre, then you're a poser. Thanks for watching. See you soon. More Rauta stuff.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, man. Pleasure.
Yeah.
I like interviews when they're open and, you know, it's not like the typical stupid questions that you get asked all the time. You know?